Okay, up next we've got Lorna Eden. Are you ready, Lorna?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, do you want to take control?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, we can see you. Thank you.
No worries. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Lorna. I'm originally from the Information Labs Data School, where I did 4 months solid training on Tableau and Alteryx, and then followed by 3 lots of 6-month placements. I now work at Edward Mellor as the Group Insight Manager, where I'm transforming the estate agents, and hopefully they will get going quickly. So I blog at missdataviz at wordpress.com, where I can blog about my Alteryx and Tableau tips and tricks. I originally started when I was at British Gymnastics. I started looking at Tableau and saw the real world implications, which then made me join the Information Lab, which I really enjoyed. I am the reigning tips champion at the London TUG. I also competed at Vegas for the community battle of tips against Anne Jackson, Zen Master. Fun fact for the day, I am a Taekwondo 2nd degree black belt, and I'm also a world champion. So today I have 5-ish tips to show you, which could have hidden tips in between. So they're attributed under 5 different elements of Tableau. So the first one is shapes. So using custom shapes to use as filters or buttons for landing pages. The second one is formatting, something that could just finish off your dashboards and add that extra wow. Dates. We love to hate them. How continuous, discrete, which one do I use? I'll show you how to build a calendar. Color legends. Now, we don't always use these, but sometimes we do. This one will allow you to show a dynamic color legend, so when you have sheet swapping. And then finally, action filters. Yes, the first one on shapes falls under action filters as well, but this one just adds that extra little wow on your dashboard. Again, there should be tips inside each one of those that you can still take away from today. So let's go on to Tableau. So my first one is custom shapes. So there's the way that you can add custom shapes to your dashboard. If you go to your Tableau repository folder on your desktop, you can then add shapes into your shapes folder. I have a lot of different shapes, but you can add different folders and add different pictures within inside those. So for example, on my friends viz, I have the images of each of the different characters. So then what we can do here is we can add the name to the shape and then individually select. But what this can then do is from here we can then add a highlight filter, so we can see where Joey is, we can see where Monica is, and we can see where Phoebe is. All we need to do for this is when we go to dashboard and dashboard actions, when we highlight the character, we can select from the character sheet to whichever sheets we want to highlight, and then we should really select the field in case there's multiple fields on there. So then we can know that it's exactly the name that's causing it. We can also use it to filter. So if you notice the word cloud down here filtered, so it shows just that person's most spoken words. But within the shapes, you can also use custom shapes like these up here. So what these do is these take you from a page to a page, which then allows you to go back and forward. So the way to do these ones is, again, with the custom shapes, you add them into your folder. We then go to dashboard, dashboard actions, and you can go back and forth. So if we go back to page 6, what we do here is we select the sheet that we're going from, but then in the target sheet, we change this to which dashboard we want to go to. So this is from the forward one, and we want to go back to shapes. On the selected fields, we make sure that nothing is selected, so we can't filter anything. So what we can do here now is we can go back. So that is my first section of tips. The next section is formatting. So if we wanted to use our corporate colours and we wanted to make this green, let's say, for our branding, if we go to colour, more colours, our colour palettes aren't there. Therefore, we have to select a specific colour and we have to faff around. Whereas when we have dimensional data, we can choose a colour palette and work from there. So let's create a dummy field. So I'm just going to call it dummy, and then we're going to drag that to colours. When we now look at the edit colours, we can now pick from our colour palette. So if you have a branded colour palette, we can then add this in. So we can change this to brown. Click OK, done. So the other way, so in 10.2, I love this little tip, but in 10.2, if you go to format and workbook, you've got the option to remove all of your grid lines and your zero lines. You can also remove various other different lines, and you can change various different fonts, which I hate little grid lines unless they're absolutely necessary. So I can turn them off for the whole workbook, and then I don't have to keep clicking through the different sheets to take them off. The other thing that we can do, which is good, we can change the date format. So if we right click on our data source and we go to date properties, we can change the week that the date starts on, we can change the fiscal year start, and we can change the format. So for the Americans that are on today, we can change it to American format, or we can change it so it forces it to stay at UK format. So then again, if you've not noticed down the bottom here, we can colour different tabs, which is good, because if we then wanted to look at a dashboard, for example, and we wanted to add a filter in, so if I just add a quick filter for episode, when I go to apply this worksheet, when we go, because the sheets aren't coloured in the background, we can use the colours. So if you look down here, if the sheets were coloured, we can then use the colours to allow us to apply the filter to specific worksheets, which works very nicely when you're trying to figure out which one you want to use. So conditional formatting, it allows you to look above and below an average. So we wanted to see it visually, where it's above or below the category average. But if you look at the tooltip as well, where you see if it's below or above, it's blue or orange. So it's a nice little calculation that we can do here. So the first one, we need to create a level of detail calculation to get the average. So within this, you can see that the calculation that we use. So this section here is basically bringing back the total sum of sales for each of the subcategories. So phones is 330,000, machines is 189,000. So, but then what we want to do is we want to take the average of those based on the technology category. So this is when we do the outer level of detail calculation, and we do the average of those based on the category. We can then create a true-false calculation where you can do if the sum of sales is greater than or equal to the average, then above and below, which is great. But the next step would be to single out the above and below. So if we go to above, then you can see if we use a calculation equals above, then we just want the word to say above, which then allows you to go into your tooltips and change the color of your above and below calculations. So then you can have above in blue and below in orange. And then because you've nulled out the second option, it doesn't show, and it only shows you what it needs to show, which I think is pretty neat. The next one, a calendar. So we love to hate these because it's date parts, continuous dates, which one do I use? So what I'm going to just show you here is if you can right click and drag, or option drag for Mac users, onto filters, we can then get the date range. So first thing I'm going to do is pick a specific month year. So if I scroll down to the latest year in this data set, we then have, well, this is filtered to December 2017. Again, if we right click and drag or can option drag onto columns, we then get this box. So the first section of dates is discrete dates, which is the date part. So it's a Monday. It doesn't matter what Monday it is in any year, any month. It's just a Monday. Whereas the one down here, this day contains all of the information before it. So it'll be the day, month, year. This one will be month, year, quarter, year, and then just year. So it just gives you a bit of a insight into how to understand the dates. So if we go weekday, which then we get our Sunday to Saturday across the top. Again, if we right click and drag order date to rows, we then want week, which then gives us our week down the side. If we fit this to entire view, it just makes it look a little better. And then again, the last one is option drag order date to text and change this to day, which then gives us our numbers in our corners. So we can change the alignment of these so that it's top left, top right, depending on how you like your calendars. But what I like to do with calendars is it allows us to show a measure on top of this. So if we wanted to look at the profit for these days in December, if we drag profit to color, but then change the mark type back to square, we can then see, Thursday the 7th of December didn't do so well. We're down on profit. Whereas we can have a look at the up profit days. So on like Sunday the 24th, which is Christmas Eve. So there's a lot of people last minute buying. So it just gives you that option to show more things within your date ranges. So the next one, color legend. So from here, so this is a neat little trick, which is sheet swapping, where you can choose between whether you want to see a bar or a map. But if you notice, when I click map, my color legend disappears. That is because the color legend is related to that first bar sheet. So what we need to do here is we need to create a color legend which is irrelevant to the parameter that's using to flick between the sheets. So if we create a new sheet and we have all the states and all of the profits on, and then we have this color legend up here. So what we can do then is we can add this sheet to the dashboard. But what we want to do is we want to edit the size so that, oops, sorry, my bad. So that it's small so we can't see it. But then what we want to be able to do is add the legend, which is the color legend. So then when we flick from bar to map, we still see that color legend in the background. So it allows us to keep the color legend on when we're flicking between the sheets. And then finally, we have, I love this tip and I use it all of the time. So what we want to do is we have a small space on the dashboard and we want to be able to see the difference. We want to see the bar, but then we also want to see the difference over time. So if I click copiers, we then see the spark line of how the sales of copiers has gone over time. Great, right? So you can have two things and you only have to show one at a time. So the way to do the first trick is to have it exclude all values when you do action filters. So then this will then allow the spark line to disappear when you click off to show the bars. But when I do the bar, what I want to be able to see is I want to be able to see the context that the bar is in. So if we don't add this reference line in, we will then just have the bars of the bookcases all the way to the end because it's got no reference as to what the maximum sales was. So if we have a look at that calculation, again, it's another level of detail calculation, but this time, instead of the average, what we want to do is the maximum. So this inner level of detail calculation just brings back the total sum of sales for the subcategory. So again, for phones, it's 330,007, chairs 328, etc. And then the one on the outside, this allows you to then fix it at the maximum level. So this is bringing back purely the maximum sales for the subcategories. So this, for this example, is phones at 330. So then when we add it as a reference line, which is here, we can change the line to none and change the label to none so it's seemingly invisible, sorry. And then when we go on to here, when we click, it'll then show the context of it. But the way to get to the single bar is if you go to dashboard and actions, if we go bar to bar, the difference being is we start on the dashboard, but then we change the target sheet to the actual sheet, so it's self-filtering. So therefore, we're self-filtering the bar chart to itself on the subcategory, and then we want to show all values at the end. So this allows you to click, and then it'll still show the context because the reference line's there, and then it'll show you the spark line as well. So that is the end of my tips. But just to finish off, I want to basically just quickly say about the ways to get involved within the community. So it's great to be on Twitter. It's not the be all and end all of the conversation, but it's nice to be involved within the conversations on Twitter. People ask questions, people ask for feedback, and people just generally showcase what they can do on Twitter. Again, blogging is really, really important. So you might have a problem, and if you blog about it, other people can help. You can help other people because yes, it might already been blogged about, but you have a different way of going about it, so people might understand your way a little bit better. Making sure that you're doing your own personal vising and iron vising. This basically just allows you to develop your skills outside of the work environment because you might not get everything you need to do when you're doing business visits. So this allows you to do this. And the IronVis schedule got released yesterday, so at least you can plan ahead as to when the schedule is, so you can have a look at that. And then there's weekly and daily monthly projects that are available out there. So two off the top of my head is Makeover Monday and Workout Wednesday, but there's a lot of ones like the Storytelling with Data Challenge. There's still like real Tableau and other projects like that, so it's just a case of finding them, and then it allows you to have a look at those. Thank you, and if anybody has any questions, then let me know and I shall answer them if we have time.